praise Yah. Lesson number 9, part number 1, was going to be made up in 2 parts. And before we get started, I want to ask for your forgiveness, because I think many years ago when I got my book, I got excited and put some markings in there with a pink marker. But now I was like, hey, I don't know what happened. Is it me or one of my kids or who did this? But it's not that bad. It's just a couple of different points. So when you get it later on, don't, what is this guy showing us? Okay. So hopefully you can see my screen. Can you see the screen? No?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this. Share. There he is. There she is. Condra. Hallelujah. All right. Perfect. Condra came. So that's good. We have our scholars on. Yay. Here we go. All right. So, hey, listen, guys, lesson number 9. Of course, you're always going to get like 12 vocabulary words. And again, the emphasis is that we want to learn what these vocabulary words are, because they help us, gain a better understanding into our culture. And if you notice, all of these words come directly out of the Torah. These are not new words. These are out of the Torah. Okay. They're out from the Torah. Somewhere in the Torah, they're in there. So this is not something that was just created by someone. This is what it is. You're going to get 12 words. Okay. And what we have here is, you're going to get some verbs. And what I want to let you know, like, say, so far, when we finish this lesson today, you'll have like 100, you should have 124 words, that you're getting familiar with so far. And that's pretty huge, because that 124 can turn into thousands if you know how to add stuff, that the ending and the prefix and the suffixes and the infixes. If you know how to put those there, it's just tremendous. It just grows. Okay. So whatever you add to it, you just increase it, because the Hebrew language is very concrete. All right. So our vocabulary words here in the top are going to show you some verbs. And they're always going to begin with he. And you don't see any he on the word. Why? Because it's a 3-letter root and it's perfect. Okay. So when you see a 3-letter root that is a verb, okay, it always means he said, or he sat, or he fled. So when you see this in your vocabulary and you go back over your other lessons, you will always see, if it says he, it's a verb. He sat. That's the action he did. He fled, he chased, he pursued, he approached. Okay. And then over here, you have what they would call a noun, shalom. And then you have this preposition, lama'an. And then you have some other nouns right here, zon, nefesh, ohel, shame, atah, and na. Right? Make a song. Zon, nefesh, ohel, shame, atah. Nata the shame ohel nefesh. Okay, go up and down, all the way across, make up sentences for yourselves. It doesn't matter if you have the grammatical structure right. All we're caring about is whether you know what the root is. Okay, that's all we're looking for. If you know the root, then you'll understand. When you see it, you'll be like, oh, that's an nefesh. Oh, that looks familiar to me. It's not going to be when you just hear it only. It's when you see it and you hear it. So also too, when you get this vocabulary list, cover one side of it. Okay. Where the actual Hebrew is, cover that up. After you finish saying these words, say it. No matter how many times you got to say it, sing it. 113, Yeshav, Yeshav, Yeshav. I don't care how long you hold it. Yeshav, 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 Yeshav. And you know what that means. He sat. If I say Yeshava, 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 she sat. Yeshavo, 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 he sat. You see, that's how it goes, right? So you have your endings, okay? The Barak, the Radaf, Nagash, and Shalom Lama'an, okay? So remember how to do that. Take your time with that. You'll be at 124 words. But as I stated, In this lesson, you're going to have verbs and nouns. Okay. So we're going to cover rule number 19. And what this is dealing with is what they call the command form. The command, there's several different commands when someone's speaking, but only today we're going to be dealing with one. All right. In our verb book, because we have another book besides this one, this is dealing with the basics on how to master the basics of the language. There's a whole nother book with like 24 lessons that have to do with how verbs work. In the lessons, like, what the letters are and what the symbols underneath each of those letters are. And if it's here, this is what it means and all this kind of good stuff. And when you get to that point in your learning, it's going to be amazing. And they're going to tell you about all the different ways that a person can make a command. But one of the things that you want to learn about this is that they're going to just show us how you can remove a letter from an actual verb tense, okay, or root. And you can change something from you will speak to speak. Okay. Often in the Torah, there's times, if you know how to read it, you'll find out, oh, this was a command. This wasn't just a regular request. This is literally the command. So they're going to teach us how that happens. So we learned already to put a verb into the future tense. All we need to do is just add a letter onto the front, and they give you the example. And here in this example is called, tadaber. Actually, that was one of our words today in our study, which is daber or davar. And davar means to what? It means to speak. Okay. The ta here means you, right here. You will, you will. That's future tense. You will is this letter right here, the tav. Okay. If I put an aleph on the front, it's I will. Put a tav on the front, it's you will. Okay. You put a noon on the front, it's we will. See? And then if I'm talking to a male, or if a male is saying it to be a certain thing, or if it's female, and all those different types of things. But for today's lesson, just understand that in order for us to turn a verb into a future tense, all they did was just add a letter to the front of the verb, which is here. Okay. Now we're going to learn that if you want to give someone a command someone to do something, all you're going to do is you're simply going to take the verb in a future tense and you're going to remove the letter that was added onto the front of the verb. That's pretty much it. Okay. But it could get a little tricky. And the reason why I said it gets a little tricky, and you'll see by our lesson today, that when you do that, things change. And what I mean by that is all these markings underneath here, sometimes they'll change, and you'll be like, man, but I thought it was this. You got to know verb tenses. Okay. So we haven't got to that part. So for you, it might be a little confusing. That's why I only want to go over maybe 2 pages today. Okay. But here's our example. The first example we have here is you will speak. And again, in the way that we do business is we break down each one of our words to come up and find out, well, what is what? Okay. So rule number 1, what we want to find out is what the root is, and it's davar. Rule number 2 is you chopped it down and you say, well, what is you? That's right here. Okay. You will right here. I'm sorry. You will. Okay. So that's future tense. Okay. They're telling us if you want to change this from you will do something to a command, all you do is you remove the tav off from the beginning of the word. And it's just daber. Versus tadaber, it's daber. That's a command. Speak. Okay. We look over in our second example. Now it's pretty straightforward, right? Look at our second example. We got to find what? What's our rule? We find the root. We're going to find the root. And then if we chop that out, we'll be like, okay, so now that's what we have, right? So the tav right here again is you will, and then here's shamar, which is guard. But if I want to say guard, all I would say is get rid of this, and it would be shamor. Shamor. as we continue our lesson, you're going to find out that these little dots under here can either change sometimes, and that's the tricky part. Okay. What I focused on when I was learning is like, okay, well, take the letter off the front, and how would I know that it's a command? What's the easiest way? Because some of these roots will have this underneath it, or it might have this underneath it. It might have this underneath it. It might have this underneath it. Who knows what it's going to have underneath it? But knowing that it has this underneath it, that in particular 2 dots right here, that automatically tells me that that is a command. That's what you have to remember. And that could be tough. Okay. That can be tough. And you might ask yourself, well, if you didn't have those markings underneath there, how would you know? And again, the sentence structure will let you know, the context of it will let you know whether this was a command or not. More than likely, just it by itself, okay, would be the command. Because often you hear, sometimes you hear why debar, or why yomer. That means, and he said, or he spoke to Moshe. And sometimes you hear him say just daber el Yisrael, or bnei Yisrael, speak to the sons of Israel. And that's the command. Okay, because Yah gives, when Yah speaks, he's not making suggestions. Okay, and they would have it as an imperative. Okay, meaning the way that it's commanded, it's an imperative. They have 3 different ones that I don't want to. Oh, forgot what happened there. There's 3 different ways that you can make a command. You know, first person, second person, third person. But we don't want to go into that right now because that'll be just too confusing. But there's 3 ways that you can make a command to 3 different types of people: first person, second person, third person. And they have names and all that kind of stuff. But for today's lesson, just understand that when I want to make a command on something that has a future tense, I just remove that first letter. Okay, of course, you're going to get a copy of this. But let's look at this note. It said, it is important to note that the command form is only applicable in the you, okay, form, meaning I can only command you. I can't command them. In a sense, like when Yah had spoken to Moshe, he told him, when he's talking to him, you tell them this. See, and because we chose Moshe, and that's what I love about our lessons, because we get to, we're Torah people, so we keep the Torah, so we understand what this really means. When Yah spoke to Moshe, he was directly talking to him to tell him what to command the children of Israel. Yah didn't speak to the children of Israel after Mount Sinai. He's never said one word to them like he spoke to Moshe, okay? But this is why it's important to listen to what Moshe said, because we chose. We chose Moshe to be the representative to hear what Yahweh has to say. And that's our go-to as Hebrew Israelites, okay? It says command can only to you to do something. I can't command I, he, she, we, or they to do something. Meaning we can't say I stand up, I, or he stand up. This makes no sense, right? So we can only say you stand up, okay? Therefore, for example, Devar in all its command forms is all these different examples right here. And as you can see, as we've been discussing over the last several weeks, and what you're getting it, you're understanding it, that Yahweh is always going to talk to us in a masculine singular, feminine singular, masculine plural, feminine plural. And you can see you, as I discussed today in our lesson, sometimes Yah is directly talking to a single individual, male or female. And sometimes when he talks to you, he's talking about the whole group, a plural of you, whether male or female. See? So when he talks about I'm going to scatter you, he's talking about plurality. But if you know the Hebrew, you'd be like, well, what about this part? But you got to turn back to me. Oh, that's you singular. Oh, so why did he do that? Oh, because he's letting us know that only a certain group of you, it's an individual thing. I can't hold the whole nation responsible for you not turning back. So now you have a responsibility as a single individual to turn back to him with all your heart, with all your mind. And you can't do that for anyone else. And because we understand the language and we understand how the grammar works, we then can start understanding, like, I can't try to tell anybody else what to do when it comes to with a whole heart and a whole soul and a whole mind. I can't do that. I can't tell anybody to do this, and neither can you. So this should let the burden off. Okay. Just a little extra there. So we know that he's talking to masculine singular, masculine plural, masculine female singular, female plural. And there's different ways that it's spoken. So dealing with the male, okay, I want you to pay careful attention to, we got the ta, which is you, and then we got the root. Okay, we know that. Forget about all the dots and how it sounds right now. That's not important. What we're looking for is understanding, what do these things mean? We'll get into the pronunciation and stuff later. Don't worry about it. We'll get into all these little dots and, all that kind of stuff. We don't want to trip off that right now. We just want to understand the concept of removing the tav, and what does it mean? It means speak. That's as simple as it is. We're not going to complicate it. I don't like complicating things. It makes it hard. If you notice that the masculine here is primarily the same, except for the feminine singular has a yod on the end. See, it has the yod on the end. So it's here and it's this. That's the indicator that it's feminine. And these are things that you and I are going to have to remember. That's why I'm going to give you a little bit. I can't give you a whole bunch because it's like too much. So the male by itself, you will, or yeah, you will speak. Okay. You will speak is the tav is you will, and the speak is devar. Okay. When we talk about the female singular, her form, the way it's going to be, is going to be another tav, like you see right here. It's going to be a ta right here, and it's going to have the same root to speak, but then she's going to have this I right here. I. So anytime you want to put this, a tav and a yod on the end, this is a signature form to mean feminine, singular. That's what the FS is. That in particular, those letters right there are letting you know that that's feminine. Okay. That's what it's going to be. So they're going to add that to whatever root we need to. Case in point. All right. So let me prove this. So we go here, got a tav, and that means you. I make it here over here, that's feminine. If it's a tav by itself, then that's just masculine. Okay. That's what it is. When you notice, when you put this on the front of a word, it means he, but when it's on the back of a word, it means her. Okay. That's what it means. It's feminine. All right. So you had devar as your root right here. You can put another one here, and let's just make it shamar. That's what it'd be for a feminine, excuse me. Mar is to guard. Okay. And here's the root, this yod right here. So these things right here tell us that it's feminine. That's always going to be her form on any root. Okay. And let me ask you a question. I don't want you to get confused, because I told you when you add a letter to the front of a root, it becomes a future tense. But I also told you if you add something on the end of a word, it's what is done, right? But because there's a letter that's added to the front and the back, it's still a future tense. It's still future. And the reason why it's future is because there's a letter added to the front. So anytime a root has a letter added to the front of it, it means that it's in the future tense, even if it does have a yod on the end, even if it does have a na on the end. Okay. So all endings without anything on the front is past tense. But there are sometimes you're going to see things with a letter on the front and a letter on the rear, and it still means that it's future tense. Okay. Because if you notice, everything over here is will. That's all future. That's what a will is, to be in the future. Okay. But you have to remember that. And I think you have on one of your lists, I don't know what page it is, but it'll tell you what these endings are. Okay. Here's another one. Now we're dealing with plurality of masculine plural. Okay. So we know what our root is right there. But now we got something different. Now we got a tav and we got a what? Ooh on the end. That's a piece to your puzzle. You see? And so this right here means masculine plural. That's what that means. Okay. If I got a tav and I got a yod on the end, then that is feminine singular. See? And then we're going to go from this and we're going to go to feminine plural. They don't break it out for us here, but because I've been studying this and I know it, I'm always chopping everything down. So the tav and the noon and the hey on the end tells me what? It tells me that it's feminine plural. And then I will just go ahead between those two things and put in my root. See? So if you know your pieces, okay, if you know what your pieces are and you know what they mean and you understand your root to the word, you can understand who's talking. You'll know the person. Here it is. I named it this just because I'm good with little acronyms. You can either go PNG, okay, if you want to do that, or go PGN, whichever way you want to. And the P represents the what? The person. Who's the person talking? Okay. Who's the person talking? And what I mean by person, is it I? Is it you? Who is it? Is it us? Who is it? You see? So is it person, first person, second person, third person? There won't never be anything else. It's a 1, 2, 3. Okay. The next thing you're going to be looking at is what? The N, the number. Is it singular or is it plural? Which is it? These are the questions you're always going to have to ask. What person is it? How many people are you talking about? Is it a single person or is it plural? When the you is talking about you, is it talking about you as an individual or is it talking about you as a group? You see? Then the last one is the G that I have there represents the gender. Is it a male or is it a female? Or is it common? Is it combined both of them together, a group? But it's going to be masculine or feminine. If there's one masculine in a group of females, you're going to say it as masculine because they're dominant. Okay? And don't feel bad because all of our souls are feminine. So you're looking for PNG. Okay? PNG, person, number, gender. Or you could be PGN, person, gender, number. It doesn't matter which. You can make it NPG. You can make it whatever you want. Any combination that you choose, you can make it whatever you want. It's no specific order. You don't have to do it my way. You can make it GPN or PGN, whatever you want. All right. So write that down and understand that that's what you're going to be looking for. Once you understand that those are the things that you're going to be looking for, when you diagnose something like these letters and these words, you'll be able to fully understand, oh, I know what that is. I don't see any yod on the end, so I know that's not feminine. Oh, that's a feminine ending. But I'm not even telling you. You already know it. Once you learn these things, the tav and the yod on the end, or the tav and the na on the end, you'll know it. Oh, that's feminine. You know, without it, you'll know that it's masculine. You'll know that it's plurality of them when you see the u on the end. And then you is the tav. So you what? Plural. First person, second person. That's second person. Is it plural or singular? Oh, that's plural because this represents plurality. It means more than one. See? So those are the things that you need to look for. And you're just doing a diagnostic on it. And you're just breaking it down every time you have an opportunity. That's how you do it. Okay. That's a little side note to what this is. I know that's not shown here, but I needed to bring it to your attention because I don't want you to get afraid when you start seeing all these different endings and, it's like, well, what is this? And what is that? How can I figure this out? Well, this right here is the plurality. This right here is the you. This right here. That's you. This is you. This is you. And this is you. Now, what kind of you? Oh, that's masculine. That's feminine. And there's singular. And that's singular. Oh, and this is masculine. Okay. And what is it? Ooh on the end. Oh, that's plural. Okay. That's you on the beginning. Yeah, that's you. And it was here. Oh, that's not. It's plural. I got it. Question. Here's the thing. Is this ooh right here? Since it's plural, is it first person, second person, third person? According to our chart, it would be the third person. They. See? So 1, 2, 3. This could be common. This could be you by yourself. It could be you as a group. All right. Common, including both male and female. That's not what we're talking about. Second person, you talking about you or them, okay? Or you're talking directly to this person, okay? So that's the second person. And then them or they, that's third person. Them over there, those people, them over there. See, you got to be talking to someone to talk about a third person. That's what he talk about, talking in third person, okay? So first person, second person can have a conversation. Anytime you talk about someone else, that's the third person. So Yah was talking to Moshe. He's giving him, you, the command to tell them, the third person. So we got to learn what our first person, second person, third person is. Okay. And that's what I want you to focus on. Okay. All these rules, you're going to get them and they'll come and they'll leave. All right. So basically they're saying simply what you're going to do is just take this tav off the front of the verb, which is the 3-letter root. And that's what it is. Okay. You're not going to have all 19 rules in your brain. What's rule number 1?
No A, no letter A.
Yeah, somebody got there's no A. Yeah, okay. All right, smarty pants. And then you got the hey, and you got rule number 3. And I say, what's rule 6? Ain't nobody saying that. We're not going that heavy. We're not going that deep. It's good to know because every time you do a lesson at the end of the worksheet, they give you what the rules are. And you read those rules all the time. If you know the rules to the game, you'll win. You'll be able to win. At least you'll be able to play. You know what I mean? Which I learned in my golf game when I was playing golf. If you learn the rules, you play a lot better when you know the rules to something. Okay. So here's another example. Okay. We got you, first person, second person, you and second person, And then we got masculine, feminine. We got singular and the plural. That's what it's always going to be, you guys. It's not going to be anything else. There's no transgender. There's no fourth person. So all they're telling us again is just simply take off the tav, get rid of it. And then as soon as you do that, it's still talking to you. And if you notice, it's associated with the tav. You got to take the tav off because the tav is only identified as you, whether it's first person, masculine singular, female singular, masculine plural, feminine plural, you. That's why they're just dealing with the tav. So when you make sense of it, when he says the only time you can use this is when you're talking to you, to someone else, okay? Second person. That's the only time you'll never find where you could take a mem off of the beginning, or you could take an aleph off and then all of a sudden it becomes a command. No, it's the tav. That's why he said you can't say I, you can't say he, we can't say we, or none of it. The only thing you can say in a command form is you. I'm giving you a command. And because you is associated, whether it's masculine, feminine, singular, masculine, feminine, plural, it's only going to be associated with you. And the only letter that identifies you in the Hebrew language is the tav. Right here. The only letter in the Hebrew language that identifies in front of any verb for I is an aleph. This tav right here is you. Okay. First person, second person. Okay. And they got something for third. Okay. But I don't want to give you too much to confuse you. Okay. So only reason why we're using the tav is because the tav always represents you, and you can only command someone, the you in that conversation. I can only command you to do it. I cannot say he do it, I do it. You got to be you. That's what the command is. All right. So then they give us another note. It says, please note that the shimri really should be, and see, this is the confusing part. So when you get this, I want you to read it nice and slow. Basically, what they're going to tell you here without confusing you, because it is a little confusing, they're saying up here when it says, where is it at? Right here. When it says shimri, they're giving this example right here, shimri. They're saying shimri really should really be shimri. Okay. But the problem is, you guys, in the rules of the language, they're saying that these two little dots, like these two things, like they can't be side by side. This is against the rules of the language. You can't have two schwas by them next to each other for whatever reason. I don't know why, but I think it has to do with pronunciation is too short of a sound. Okay. Because so you don't go shimuri. You don't do that. Right. So what he's saying to us is it should be, instead of it being shimri, it really should be shimri. But they're not going to allow it to be shimri because of the rules that are associated with these two schwas. You can't have two schwas. There's no way that they could be pronounced. And I believe because those sounds are too short. So the reason why it is shimri is not because that's what it's supposed to be, because it's supposed to be this. But because of the rules of these dots right here, those little schwas right here, they said, we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is change it to shimri. So we'll read the note real nice and slow. Please note, shimri should really be shimri. Okay. And shimaru or shimru should really be shimru. Because as we said above, to make the command form, all you have to do is take off the what? The tav. And the rest of the letters of the verb and its vowels should stay exactly the same. However, since as we learned in a later book, which is the verb book that I told you about, if you know the verb book, then you'll understand why they changed this from shimari to this, because grammatically, they don't want to use this because it just doesn't sound right. Okay. And it's against the grammatical syntax of how those sentences are supposed to be structured. So that's why they changed it to that. Just a little note for you to understand, but it's just a note. But what we understand today is that the only thing you have to do is take that tav off the front. And the reason why it's a tav, because the command can only be to you, whether it's singular or plural, whether it's masculine or female, feminine, it always has to be the tav. Okay. And then look what they got the nerve to put this on here. Don't get confused. That's why I'm not going to confuse you. That's what I'm saying. Just don't even trip. When you read it, just like, okay, whatever. I don't got the other book, so I'm not tripping. All right. So what it's talking about now is that on page 36, we learned that, and they're bringing up a root. Okay. And the root is what? What's the root here?
Shamar.
Shamar. Okay. And the he is implied. Again, anytime you see the three-letter root without anything on it, added, nothing, it is perfect. And how do we know it's perfect? Because there's nothing added to it. If you add something to the front of it, it will happen. I add something in the middle of it, it means that something presently is going on. Okay. So for this is a he, and the he is, I'm a little quiz to see if we can follow along. We got first person, second person, third person. Which one is he? Is he first person? Is he second person? Or is he third person? Think about it. Me and
He
you're
would be
talking.
you,
We're
so
talking.
second.
Huh?
He would be like you, so second,
No, he's going to be the third.
third.
He's going to be the third. Let me tell you the reason why. Because he is not here when you and I are talking. It's me and you. If we're going to talk about, if I talked about your brother name is Jonathan, right?
Yes.
What does he do for a living?
Mhm.
See? Me and you're talking, and I go, what does he do for a living? He's not here. He's not in a conversation. He's a third party person that's somewhere else. Because if Jonathan was standing right here, I wouldn't say, what is he? I would ask him right to his face, what do you do? What do you do? And he would be a second person. And if I was talking to both of you guys, I would say, well, what do you, both of you do? What do you guys do? What do you guys? You still is plural. See? So he is a third person that's not here. If I'm discussing him, he's not here. He's not in a conversation. Okay. He could be maybe 15 feet away from me if I'm talking. He could be 10 feet. He may not hear me. See? So when Yah's talking to Moshe, when he's telling him, he's talking to him, he's talking first person, second person. Well, when he's talking to the children of Israel, he's using Moshe to talk to them. And sometimes he talks to them. When he talks to them, he doesn't talk to them directly. He's talking to Moshe. He's like, tell them. Or when he's more specifically, tell the house of Israel, tell him, third person. See? So he is in perfect form. There's nothing to add to him. Now, if I wanted to feminize it, what would I do? If I want to make it she, what would I do? She guarded. All I got to do is do what?
At a time at the beginning.
I had that hey. At that hey, and it comes from he to she. She guarded. Okay. I added something to the end, but I didn't add it for it to it is past tense, but I added the to feminize it. That's what I did. It's still perfect now. It's still perfect. Even though I added something to the end here, it's perfect. Okay. One of the things that gets confusing is like, you're like, okay, well, I got 3-letter roots and I know that they're all perfect. Let's say it. All 3-letter roots are perfect. They're perfect. They're done. They're guarded. If you know what the root is to guard, and then guarded is perfect. Okay. So all 3-letter roots are perfect for verbs. Okay. They're perfect just by themselves. And it's always implied that he guarded when it's in his 3-letter root. If I want to feminize it, I go put that on it. And now she guarded, still perfect. If I want to say I guarded, T. And so it'd be shamarti. See? The tav at the beginning of a word is you. The tav on the end of a word is I. So if you know your rules, you'll be like, okay, so that's a tav, but it's at the end of the word. So it means I. In this in particular thing, okay? In this in particular way that it's written. If it was a tav and it had a ta like that on the end, what would it be?
It'll be you.
Yes. Tav. Yes, you. Now, the reason why it's still perfect, but now is it the first person, second person, or third person?
You is second.
Thank you. It's second person. Okay. So then we got this underneath that tells me that it's masculine. Okay. Now I'm going to write it feminine for in a female way. Okay. Here you go. So that's you. Perfect. Good job on that. Here's the tav again. And now it has right here. That's a tav, right? Shamar, it's a verb because this is an action. Okay. And then here, I got 2 dots. Versus this like that. This tells me that it's feminine. Okay, it's female, right? And this right here is male. See, but this right here is you. So what am I showing you? I'm showing that if you know your pieces to your puzzle and you know the little markings that tell you whether it's masculine and feminine, you will know who it is. Is it first person, second person, third person? That's always what you're going to do. P, G, N, or PNG, whatever way you want to do it. Okay. Person, gender, and number. We can solve this. Okay. The person is it first person, second person, third person. But it's you, first person, second person, third person.
Second.
Thank you. It's second person. Okay. Now the gender, these little dots and things like this will tell you if it's masculine or feminine. Okay. It'll tell you if it's masculine and feminine. Use your imagination. Masculine and feminine. Those will tell you what it is. Okay. If it's the 2 dots, it's feminine. If it's the T right here, it's masculine. Okay. What's the number? The number is going to tell you whether if it's singular or plural. So in this case, the U, and it's a ta or it's a t. I know based off the sound that the ta means singular. I know the t is singular. I know the ta is masculine. I know the t is feminine singular. Okay. How am I going to know if it's a plural versus a singular? Well, our endings tell us. If it's a masculine, I got to get a different color. I don't like that color. If it's a masculine, it's going to be a tav, and it's going to be a mem on the end. That's masculine. That'll let you know that this is plural. Like you have your im on the end of the Hebrew ending. Well, here again, they put an M, the mem on the end to let you know that it's plural. I know that it's masculine because the letter, I remember that the letter, the M, the mem represents masculinity in the end of a word. Okay. In most cases. The tav tells me that it is a still talking to, I want to see if you guys can know this. You guys are smart. Is it first person, second person, third person?
The tav is second.
Thank you. It's always going to be second person. Great. If the tav is on the front of this, it's always going to be a second person. If the tav is on in the back of it, it's only going to be a second person if it doesn't have the tav. The one exception is the tav with the yod to let you know that that is I. That's the only difference. That's the only one. Okay. But the tav by itself, with this underneath it, is masculine. With this underneath it is feminine. With this on the end of it, mem is masculine. With the feminine, it's a noon. They're right next to each other, mem and noon. When you use a final noon, it's feminine. And the tav tells you still it's you, but now it's plural. And now we know it's feminine. So guess what? I got the person, I got the gender, and I got the number. Excuse me, I got the person, which is the number. Excuse me, what did I say? Person? Yeah, the person, first person, second person. I said plural, here's the number right here. Okay, PNG, PGN, doesn't matter. Person, gender, number. Person, first person, second person, third person, second person. Okay, number, who's there? Plural, singular, plural, because here it's telling me it's plural. What about the gender? Oh, the noon tells me it's the gender too. You see, so you're going to find out all this information just off of one word. Unlike in the English language, you say you don't know if you're talking about you as a group or you as individual. And because of this, when we read the Torah, we get lost in the sauce because often we're thinking he may be talking to the whole group of them. And that can change your mindset. Well, that's why a lot of people think, oh, we're all going to get saved. We're all going into the land. No. We're never going to make it back because they're not all turned their hearts to him until we all turn back. So then their whole ministry and their whole service and everything they're talking about is they think that everyone has to turn back before Yah comes. See? So if we could get this right, we understand the language, you'd be like, He tells us when the time comes, so you know Yah's not waiting for everybody to turn. So what does that mean? It means that you and I have to get our act together right now, because if you don't get your act together, you're going to be the one he's going to destroy. That's why he says Eloheka, not Elohe Kim. Okay, he tells Eloheka. I'm telling you, he's your Eloheka. You got to treat him as your own personal Elohim, and that's your choice. Okay. So again, we saw that on page 36, Shamar as he guarded. I know I went a little somewhere else, but I need you to get what's going on. Okay. We can maximize these lessons that are difficult by taking our time with. We don't have to rush. Okay. So now that we understand that you can add things to the beginning, you got to add things to the end. It's always going to be PGN or PNG. Person, gender, number, gender, whatever. It's always going to be those three things, those three elements. And if you can use that to diagnose your word, you find your root, you find that, you'd be like, those are the pieces of my puzzle. Okay. So now he says that we see that Shamor, they don't even put the dots over it anymore because they figure we should know it by now. This right here tells you that it's guarding. And when you see this, and you see the way that these two dots are underneath, it automatically tells you something. What letter was in front of this before it became guard as a command? What letter was in front of it? A tav. So you should know automatically it was something that's dealing with the tav. And if it's a tav, it's dealing with a second person. If it's dealing with a second person, it's dealing with you. Then you have to figure out, is it you? Did the tav on the end has just regular tav by itself, or did it have a yod to let you know that the you is female? Did the tav on the end have a u on the end, which it tells you is masculine, a group? Oh, or did the tav on the end have the noon and the hey, feminine, you? See? So you already know it's you just don't know if it's singular or okay, but you'll find out if it's singular. You'll find out if it's feminine based on what follows the tav. The yod can be there, the u can be there, it can have nothing at all, which means it's masculine, or it can have the na on the end of it. And you would be like, ta na, no, ta u, no, ta e, right? That's what it would be. So that will tell you what it is. So we know moving forward, anytime you see, and you can look in the Bible Hub, and they break it down for you. They actually help you along the way by what they would call putting an EMP underneath it. And then basically those letters mean that it's an imperative. And an imperative is what you call a command. Okay. Imperative is a command. It's a desire, it's a wish. And there's three different ways that you can say it. And there's three different ways that it can be expressed. Okay. That you can express it. It could be a wish. It could be a desire. It could be this better be. So you got to know those different things. Okay. And we'll get there when we get more into our grammar. Okay. We're just putting our pieces together. That's what the basics are about, is about putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Does anyone have any questions on this so far? And maybe you got some confusion. You're like, hey, what does this mean? Or you've been struggling with something that you've been trying to figure out, because that's what I'm here for. I'm your teacher and I want to help you understand. Anything? Okay. Oops. let's move here. All right. So now, those are the examples you're going to get on this page. And what also it says, as an aid to stop us mixing up these two forms of shamar and daber, the command form is shamor and daber, and we can use the following basic rule. There's a basic rule. And it tells us if you see a verb with this underneath it, and see, these are the things that are tough to remember because it's a rule. And you're like, I'm not implementing it right now and all the time, because you're not going to see a whole bunch of, everything is not a command, when people are having a conversation. But mostly when the things are coming from Yah, it is a command. Okay. But here, the rule in the language is if you see the or the I under the first letter, then more than likely the verb is in the past tense. Whereas if you see a verb with these two dots and the underneath it, under the first letter, then more than likely the verb is in its command form, excuse me. And so they're going to give us the examples about those little markings being underneath this in particular root. So you got here, right here means he guarded, that is past tense, okay? And it's under the first letter. All right. Then you got the underneath here. So it's the sound. So one is shamar, okay? It means he guarded, shamar. And he did it in a way that was very simple. And that's, I'm sorry, I want to go to the other understanding of what these little things mean. I got to discipline myself and stay put. The sh underneath it is a different sound. So it's like sha and then sh. The reason why these sounds are here is because they're able to tell you what kind of form is it. Is it simply done or is it a command? So if you hear shamar, shamar is not a command. Shamor is a command, okay? So you're going to learn how to hear the sha and the sh, and that will tell you different things, okay? The more will let you know that it's supposed to be going on right now, okay? Because that's what they call a participle. So that's, some things are past, present, and future, but they're also commands and imperatives, okay? And they're just telling you the rule, a nice little rule, a little note that you want to know about when you see it with your eyes. But will you remember this? I would say no. I would say you're not going to remember this. But what I want you to remember is this, is that root words can take on a perfect form when they're three-letter by themselves, as he guarded, or he listened, or he, whatever he did. It could be perfect, okay? But also, too, you can take that same word and add a tav to it in the front of it, and it'll be a future tense, meaning you. So you have to know that if something's in a command form, if it's like shamor, you should know that there used to be a tav right in front of that letter. So you would automatically know that he's talking to the second person as a command. That's what you should know. It'll be a second person to a command, and that second person could be singular. That second person could be masculine. That second person could be singular. That second person could be feminine. That second person could be masculine, plural. It could be feminine, plural. If you know your singles and your plurals and who's masculine and feminine, you will know. And the word will let you know too, because as you saw in your example, and I'll bring you back to it, you could take a root word, and after you say something in a command form, it will still have those other remaining letters there, like this, these examples down here. These examples right here, going back to this again, shows you, right here, forgive me, make it right here. You can see from the examples that we have here that this still exists, even though they took the tav off the end of it. That is still right here, still right here. So what does that tell you? Oh, that's feminine and it's singular. Okay. What about this one? Oh, it's by itself, but it used to be, it's a command, and they have this little symbol in here. So I know what it is. Oh, you used to have a tav there. Oh, but that's talking about you. Okay. So it's still a masculine though, because it doesn't have this yod right here. Oh, okay, and that's the singular. All right, what about this one right here? That's still there. Oh, that's masculine, but it's also plural because that's what a masculine plural ending is. Because before it had the tav here, but the tav is gone now. You see? So you would automatically know. You wouldn't just go, if it wasn't a command and just said dabaru, then you would automatically think it's that they. And you would think this is a third person. Because usually this on the end is they, and they is third person plural. Okay. But because it's a command form, right? I know that a tav used to be on the end of it. I know that. I mean, excuse me, on the front of it. It used to be right here. So they took the tav off, but they left this. Why did they leave that? Oh, because they're letting me know that this is still talking about plurality, but I know the tav used to be right here. So the tav represents you. So it's the second person. So I know I can have a second person plural, and that's what it is. I know this right here is a first person. I know it's feminine, and I know it's a singular. Excuse me, not first person, second person, you, because of the tav that used to be there. You understand? I know the tav was here. I know that is a second person. So what did we learn so far? We learned that the command can only be given to you as a second person, whether it's a singular of a feminine or a singular of masculine or a singular or second person plural, okay, masculine, or a second person plural, feminine. Masculine, feminine, females, singular, plural. That's all it's going to be. 1, 2, 3, first person, second person, third person. So what they do is they're leaving these letters here. And if you don't understand what a command form is, you would think, when you hear it as dibri, you would think, meaning because davar means to speak, and here on the end by itself with no tav on the front means my. Then you would think, oh, that's my words. And that's not what it says. See, that's what you would think. You would think they said third person, and it's not. It was you. He commanded you. And the you here is a second person. It's a masculine plural. See? So we have to get to understand these things. And a na right here, outside of the tav being in the front, if the tav was here, it's you. And this here, it means plural. But if the tav was never there and it never existed, you would automatically think that this na here is a third person. And you're talking about third person, plural, feminine. That's what you would believe. But if you know your pieces and you know this rule, you'd be like, okay, I know what it is. And so you say, well, how do I know the difference? The difference is going to be these little marks that they told you. Remember they said, make a note of this. You either have that or you have these underneath it. And that will let you know. So what it means, you guys, that we have to take a closer look at the word to understand, is it in a command form? If it is, it either have this underneath the first letter or it has these 2 dots under the first letter. That was the rule. That's what they said. That's a little tidbit of note they want. So there's things that we're going to have to really focus on and have to really learn and accept. And you're not going to get it just by looking at it this time. You're only going to get this when you continually read the Torah. Okay. Because in the Torah, you'll find these things. And I'll show you an example when we get out of here on here. Okay. So then, of course, they gave us that little rule that I just showed you where you can find, you'll see a verb with that under the first letter. That will let you know that the verb was in its past tense for these in particular verbs. With those signals underneath it, it means it was in the past. But if you got something that has these little signals right here, it lets you know that it was in the future and that it is a command. You understand? And so here's your examples that you'll have. And look, like I told you, it went from that to this. It went from this to that. It went from this to that in particular symbol. Letters are exactly the same. The only difference is when you learn these little dots and symbols, okay, and what they mean and what they represent, you'll better understand how to put that sentence together. What I do want to let you know, though, is that once you learn, there's several things that you should know, and I'm not going to rush this. That right there means more than just a long ah. That's teaches how to sound. It's a sound. It's a vowel, right? This one right here is I. The I sound, the two E's together, but it's a I, not E, I. Okay. So it gives you that sound. Okay. So you know what that sound, and that's a vowel. Okay. Right. And this is another vowel. That's a Okay. And this is a short ah. You got short ahs and long ahs. Okay. But that's a short one. When we get into our vowels, we'll find more information about this. But I'm sharing this with you because I don't want you to get the page and be confused and want to give up because you're like, well, I know what that sound is, but what does this mean? What they're letting us know is that for different sounds, they're using different marks. Okay. For different vowels, they're using different marks. So it's not only the sound that's provided for this in particular symbol here, but also it tells you what vowel it is. Okay. And another crazy thing that you need to know about it, because you guys are smart, is to let you know that it gives you a sound of the vowel. It lets you know what the vowel sound is and what the vowel is, whether it's an A, a E, I, O, or U, which you already know what vowels are and sometimes why. But it also lets you know in the Hebrew language what tense it is in. What's the tense? Okay. It lets you know if it's the past. Okay. It lets you know. Okay. Like we just said, it'll let you know if it's in the present. It'll let you know if it's in the future. But also, too, it not only does that, but guess what it also does? It will also let you know what manner it was done. Was it done simple? Was it done in a very forceful way? Was it done, which is intense? Was it done in a very causative way? Was it causative? You understand? So these dots have several features, which we call vowel points, nakud. They could be for sound. They're given to us so you can visually look at them and know how to sound it. Ah, right here. Ah, I, short, okay? For sound. So they're for sound, to hear it. They're for sound, to pronounce it. You can see it with your eyes, but also, too, they function. They're indicators of past, present, and future. And they also tell you whether or not how this verb was conjugated. How was it done? Was it done in a simple way? Was it done in a forceful way? How was it done? And those sounds and those markings will tell you a story about something. So a lot of people learn how to read the Hebrew, but they don't understand the grammar. You can read it, you can sound, I can say, Wayomer Yahweh, such and such and such and such. But if I can't tell you and what out of the 7 ways it was said, if I can't tell you if it was a command, I can't tell you if it was, as a command and imperative. And then there's 3 different ways in which that command, was it a wish type command? If I can't tell you these things, was it, a juxtaposition? What was it? From what place was it? So it puts boundaries and it defines things better for us. And then we can fully understand how the Creator was talking to the children of Israel. Because if I'm telling you to do something and I say, hey, go and speak to the children of Israel. If you don't understand what these little vowels mean, and you don't understand a command form, you don't understand an imperative, you might think that Moshe was just talking to him in a very simple way. And often Yah's not talking to Israel in a simple way. Often Yah was talking to Israel with, which my favorite called the PL, which is this I sound. If you notice when you say ah, it's soft. There's not too much going on with your neck. The moment you say you feel pressure in the back of your throat. So that pressure is an indicator, that sound, and that is to tell you that that's forceful. So if I tell you to eat something, if I say it call, that means devour it. If I tell you a call, that means just eat it. See? So you can eat something in a very simple way. You can eat something in a very forceful and intense way, call it devouring it. Or you can eat something in a very, or someone can cause you to eat something, or you can cause someone else to eat something, or you can cause yourself to eat something yourself. You can feed yourself. So there's all different types of ways. So that's one of the things that I wanted to teach you today about this language, is that if you notice, they keep telling you about the root. Okay. If you understand the root, depends on where you're from, you'll understand how this works. And you'll understand how you guard it. And you'll understand how the person gave a command to speak. You'll understand just based on this image, this little form right here, the two dots that tell you, or this will tell you. And then you'll know, oh, okay, speak. Oh, it's an imperative, it's a command. Okay. That's what it is. So there's a lot more to it than just shamar. He guarded it what kind of way? Well, according to this right here, from what I know, he did it in a very simple way. Okay. If it was a dot underneath there, it would be a forceful way. Just a little side note. So what can we learn? We learn that once you learn the roots of anything, once you learn the root of this language and the vocabulary words and the verbs, all you need to do is understand what their endings are. You know, it could be a tav and a yod. It could be a tav and a ta, and it could be a tav with the two dots underneath it. It could be a tav and a yod. That's another piece. It could be just a tav by itself. And that's something. And then you got the tav right here, again, with the u on the end. Then you got the tav again, and you got the na on the end. Those are just pieces. And what goes in there is the root right here. Root. Put the root in there. So all you and I need to understand about the language, I shouldn't say all, but I would say if you get the root down, that's step number one. That's why they give you vocabulary. The second piece is learn the things that can be added and the things that can be put on the end, and then learn if they're masculine and feminine, or learn if they're plural or singular. And that's why I told you to learn your P, N, G. As soon as you learn that, you write that down. Person, number, gender, or person, gender, number. Doesn't matter which way you got it. Learn that. And then you will learn this a lot faster. You won't break any rules, because that's what you're looking for. And I'm going to show you how sharp you are. Okay. That this is working, because you're going to be able to do something that you never thought you would be able to do. So what's our favorite book? Let's see here. Let's go here in the Hebrew. All right, one of our faves. All right. Oh, yeah. I gotta find, I'm gonna look for something. You gotta look for the command. I'm gonna look for something with a command. For a web. I'm sorry I don't have one off the top, because I see y'all speaking and I'm seeing him say a whole bunch of different things, but in terms of it being a command, where was the command? Oh, imperative. Okay, there you go. I think we'll find an imperative. is we're going to be in chapter number 11 or 10. Cool. Yeah. Chapter number 10 of our Torah portion. Okay. Let's go right here. Moshe gives Yah a command. Yah, he commands Yah. Okay. You're like, well, what? Okay. That's not really a good example. All right. Here's the rule. Okay. It says like 35, chapter number 10. It says wahi, meaning whenever they set out, okay, or whenever it came to pass that the Ben Soa, they set out the Aron, the ark, and Wayomer and Moshe, and he said, well, this is what he said to Yah. Look what he said. What you're going to see is, and this is just another form. It's not the best one that I want to see with the debar, but this IMP right here, they tell you that that's what they call an imperative. So he commanded, he asked Yah, he requested from Yah to Kuma. Okay. Kuma. Rise up. Okay. Rise up. And he's given a command. It's like, but it's a certain, I told you there's different ways that you command. He's not commanding him like he's his soldier. Okay. What he's commanding him is he's giving a desire. That's a command. It's his desire. It's his desire and his wish that Yahweh will rise up. That's one way for us to understand this. Okay. And it was done in a very simple way. And that's the reason why you're able to tell whether it was simple or was it forceful or whatever. And then he says, and what Yasu the Ovayeka, that they will be scattered before you, those who hate you. And then after he said that, he said, and when arrested, he said this. He had another desire, another imperative, shuva. Okay. That means that's his wish and that's his desire. So these are not the ones that I want to find, but in the Torah, that's what you're going to find. You're going to find imperatives. All these little blue writings and stuff are telling you all the information that you need to know. And what they're doing is they're breaking down the words for you. Okay. And they're letting you know how things are done. So for example, when you look at the word, you let your enemies, okay, let's just use this for an example. Let your enemies. And in here you got the verb, and it's letting you know what type of tense it's in. And then it's also telling you that it's a participle. That means that they're actively doing it. It's not in the past, but it is presently. And then you got the masculine plural common. Okay. So it's not a matter of fact. And then you got the second person singular. Okay. So each one of these are broken down. If you notice, there's a slit right here to kind of let you know. This little slit right here, this little line is letting you know that in this word, there's a division between the second person singular and the actual action that's going to be happening. So the second person is going to be right here. The oyaveka, okay? The ka right there is the second person singular, ka, okay? Oyaveka, okay? The plurality, masculine plurality, common, I know that it is because of this right here, okay? And then I know that the name Oyev is the name of an enemy. And I'll click on that so you can see that. So Oyeveka, the Oyev is an enemy. Okay, there you go. Oyev is an enemy, it's a foe. But you saw that it was Oyaveka. They added another yod and they added the ka. See? This is the word in its singular form. Okay, Oyaveka. But you also recognize that it's a noun. That's the enemy. Okay, so that's a noun. An enemy is a noun. Great. All right. So why does it have it as a verb? Why is it listed here as a verb? What is it? Why is he doing this? Well, someone tell me. Someone's gonna say something?
Let, because he's telling you to let your enemies.
Yeah, he's actually telling you that these are the people, because this little O right here means that's the participle. That means it's ing. So these are the constant enemies that he has as plural, as enemies. But they're not singularly. There's not just one time. They're always, Yah's always having people that's his enemy. See? And so when we learn the language and we understand when we're reading, it's not like just let your enemies this time, like by themselves, just right here. He's saying you constantly have people, whether it's enemies of the people that we're about to go to, or whether it's enemies right now that's inside of the camp. Yah had enemies within the camp as well. Okay. So those are the things that you're going to learn when you're reading the Torah. Okay. If you notice, I told you that you got the U on the end. They got here's a third person masculine plural, right? And it's a verb. So if you didn't know something had a tav on it, you would automatically think it was a third person. That's why you got to know how you can recognize a word like ta deber. Yeah, we're here to bar. So if it's a ta deber, we would know that as soon as you take the tav off, it'll be deber. But then you would have these little dots underneath here. And you'd be like, oh, okay, I know that this used to be here. So it's not they, and if it had the U on the end, you know it's just not they third person masculine. You would know, oh, that's the second person. He's talking to an individual, according to the lesson we learned today. So you're going to learn how to look through the text, be able to dissect it, and be able to understand what's being said. You'll be able to look at, enemies, Oyave. I knew Oyave and I know Ovayaveka. I know that yod right there at the end of the root, I knew this right here means that it's plural. I knew this ka right here means that it's singular. I know that. And I know he's talking to you. See? I already know that. Okay. So when you read it, you're not just reading what they're saying, because don't believe everything that they're saying. Don't believe everything they're saying. You got to break this down for yourself and you'll know it. Okay. That's why I catch a lot of errors. And when they're writing certain things, I'm like, no, that wasn't translated properly. Okay. Kind of like what happened in the camp, as I told you in the book of Numbers, chapter number 12. And, when you get into this type of lesson, you'll be like really in depth. So when someone starts, someone be talking, you'll be like, wait a minute. I didn't even get into the verb tense of what the people are complaining. I mean, they caused themselves to complain. They are the ones who did it. That's different than someone else. The first time they did it, and then the second time they did it, they still had the responsibility. They're the ones who are the ones doing it. So here it is. When it talked about and spoke Miraim, remember I told you guys that before they said that Miraim and Aharon? No. If you know the language, you'll be able to understand. And listen, third person singular female. And it was in a PL. And that PL means it was a forceful, and it was in a very intense manner that this woman was talking. That changes everything when you and I are doing our studying. It gives more body to puts more meat on the bones. Where you were looking at Miraim a little bit different. She wasn't just gossiping. This woman was forcefully. That's what a PL verb is. She was forceful with it. She wasn't just regular speaking. She was forcefully talking. And how do we know? And it says Aharon, but no, it's third person masculine. I mean, third person feminine singular. She's the one who was doing it. She's the one who was PL. She was the one who was forceful. And he just kind of got caught up in it. He got into the conversation. He wasn't the initiator of her speaking against Moshe. He wasn't the initiator, she was. And to prove that, after she did that, what did Yah do to her? I didn't read it today. What did he do? He put her outside the camp for 7 days and says, even if her father spat in her face, even he spat in her face, wouldn't she have to what? Stay outside the camp for 7 days? You see? So that's what he did to her. He had to put her outside the camp. Where's it at? Moshe prayed. I didn't really get into too much of this today, but he begged Yah not to do that to her. And of course, Yahweh did put her out. He put her out. Let's see. I'm looking for another word. Oh, he cried out, saying, Elohim, nah. Oh, here you go. Here's another look. When he cried out, when Moshe cried out about his sister, because what she turned into like all white and looked like she was half dead. He gave an imperative, another desire, and look at those 2 dots underneath there. So we know that he gave a kind of a wish command, like, hey, please, Rafa Nala, give, please, okay, to her. Preposition, lamed, to, or for, what? That, hey, her. Okay, na means please. I pray now, Rafa, na, Rafa. Moshe Eliyahu, what did he say? Please, na, Rafa, na, la. See? It was a desire that he had. Okay, but when we start reading, you guys can read this. You see? Somebody read 14 for me. And you can cheat.
Wayomer Yahweh.
Yeah.
Moshe Bia.
Yes. Okay. And he right here is Yahweh said, perfect tense, to El, when it's strong staff, to Moshe. Okay. What? If her father, and if, okay, and Avi, her father. Okay, if her father had did what? If he what? Yarok. If they got Yarok twice. Okay, they got one saying it's but, and the other one they got it spit. Okay, to understand this properly, they're not really telling you that this infinity absolute right here is to intensify this, because that's what these men were doing. A father would spit in his daughter's face if she disrespected him, and she'd be shamed, and she'd have to go to the house and stay out and be away from everybody till she get rid of that shame, right? So anytime you see 2 verbs next to each other like this verb right here is intensifying that verb. It's intensifying, okay? It's putting a great emphasis. Yarok. I mean, spitting, spit, you know? What? Ba, in, and then pane, her, pane is face, but the ha is her face, okay? And not, they said, and would not, meaning, and not, would not, halo, on tikalaim, would she not be ashamed for the Shivat Yamim? Wouldn't she be ashamed for 7 days? And he shut her out. Okay. Shut her out. 7 days from what? The Mikuts, from the camp, the Lamakane, and afterwards, Wa'akar ta'asef, meaning she'll be able to come and be gathered back to the people. And so she was shut out from the Mikuts, from the camp, the I keep messing up, Lamakane de Shivat Yamin, from the what? How do you say the people?
Waham.
Yes, wa ha'am. Wa means and, ha means the, and people. So if you know your vocabulary, you'd be like, oh, I know that's people. The people is ha'am, and is wa ha'am. See? Waha'am lo naso or nasa. Nasa means to journey, to lift up, as we've been learning in our Torah portion. So we're learning words and we're learning how things function because we want to go on this journey with Yah until she's brought again. Okay, till she's caused to be brought in. Miraim, she didn't come in for herself. She had to, it was a process of her going back in. I didn't spend too much time, but that's okay. Next time we move on, we'll be able to do that. Okay. So those are the things that we understand. All right. So I'm glad you guys were able to come to class today. 2 pages I'm going to send to you, and just study that information and go over it. I don't expect you to memorize it though. Don't waste your time memorizing it. Just learn that there are a command form, and usually it's just going to be to you, second person. And that you could be a masculine or feminine, that you could be singular or plural of either one of those genders. Learn today, PGN or PNG, person, gender, number, person, number, gender. Who's the person? First person, second person, third person. Gender, male or female. Number, how many? Singular or plural. And that's it. That's the groundwork. Any questions? Nothing? I'm excited. We had a great presentation today. I'm excited for you, Kavika, for your presentation you'll be doing next week. And then I'm gonna beg Akoti Kandra to make her contribution.
You do not have to beg. I'll take the next one after her.
Cool. All right. Yay. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from everybody. Make your contribution, you know? And so when we get there, we'll get there. Praise Yah. Thank you guys for your time. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you next week.
Total Rabbi.
Total Rabbi.
Rabbi Shalom.